Atrocious.
You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans. Tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Also, follow us on Twitter @PillageJustForFun. That's @PillageJust4Fun. I'm your host, Kenny Stapler, joined every week by my co-host, Raider Kane. It's time to pillage another podcast. What's good, Kane? How you living?
What's good, Kenny? I'm here, baby. That's more than I can say for the team that showed up yesterday. I'm here.
Yeah, it's 2017. We made it. We made it through another calendar. Some interesting stuff happened to me this Sunday. I want to talk about that just before we get started. I was to meet a couple of friends at a bar in Monterey, California to watch this game. And when I rolled up, I saw my friends on the sidewalk and I was like, cool. So I get out the car. I walk over to their car. I look in the car. I noticed they're getting ready for a little smoke session. So, you know, I invited myself in the back of the car. When I looked up at my phone in my hand and saw my friend had actually texted me from inside the bar, was the moment that I realized I was not with my friends. I was with two people that look like my friends. And at that point, I decided to introduce myself formally and signify Raider Nation as a reason why we were all together. And, you know, we had the smoke section and I bounced. I played it off. I went up inside the bar and let my friends know what happened. So that's how my New Year's started.
Hey, man, what a way to start it off, man. Raider fans is everywhere, baby. There's love everywhere. There's love everywhere.
So, yeah, big proper shout out to all of Raider Nation who showed up on Sunday, unlike the team. You already talked about it. Let's get into this game, man. We had hope. We had hope going into this week that McGloin could come in and at least manage this game and that this team would rally around and pick up the slack from our leader going out the week prior. And, well, that just didn't happen. One of the worst penalized games we had all season. Looked real sloppy. The defense could not tackle. The run defense did not show up. The pass defense was atrocious. The pass rush was non-existent. And wide receivers were still dropping balls. McGloin had no moxie. Looked real soft. You know, very few glimmers of any kind of hope out of this game. What did you see? How did you feel about it?
I saw a team that came out with no resilience. I mean, I saw a team that without Derek Carr, there is no team. What team? Who was that? That wasn't a team that I've been watching 12 wins all season. Or was it? Or has Derek Carr been the guy that's masked all of this deficiencies that's been with this team? Has Derek Carr been the guy that's kept us in games? Has Derek Carr been the leader and the winner of this team? Derek Carr is the MVP of this team. And without Derek Carr, who are we?
Well, we're not a running team. I'll tell you that much, because all week long we said we were going to run the ball and lean on that. And I know we got down early, but we ran the ball 16 times for 57 yards. And that's not going to get it done. We put the ball in the air 32 times for 164 yards. And that's not going to get it done.
Atrocious.
This was, by all means, a playoff game. This had implications for seeding, therefore was a playoff game, doubled down by the fact that you're playing a division rival. Biggest game of the season, came out and played like it was preseason. And now we're a 5th seed. We're looking at Houston next week. I don't know what to say. We'll get into that in a little bit. Some stuff happened in this game. There was a few storylines. The chain snatching incident. I mean, you snatch a guy's chain on national television in front of the referees. It puts Crabtree in a position to do something or not do something. He didn't do anything. What would you have done in this situation?
If I was on the street or if I was on a football game?
If you're in a football game. I mean, I know what goes down on the streets.
I just wanted to make sure you was asking me the question about being on the field. Yeah, if I was on the field and somebody snatched my chain.
Despite the fact that Crabtree looks like an extra member of the Fushnikins, I still think on the street he would have done what either you and I would have done. But on a football field, what would you have done in this situation?
I would have did just what Crabtree did. Look, this dude pulled my chain, pulled Crabtree's chain because he was trying to get Crabtree ejected. And this, mind you, was in the beginning of the game when they needed to get Crabtree or somebody out of the game who they thought was important to the offensive game plan. So, and also Denver ain't got nothing to play for. So Aqib Talib, he was willing to take the hit too, from what it looks like. I mean, he blatantly grabbed dude chain and he pushed him around. I mean, the ref was standing right there. Black and white was in the photograph when this happened, and they didn't do anything. So, you know, I would have did just what Crabtree did. Sportsmanship, man. I would have did just what Crabtree did. Have good sportsmanship, complain to the refs, and kept playing my game.
I was outraged when there was no call there. I just thought that was blatant. Like, you got to throw a flag right there. I was outraged. I can't believe that they let that slide. That's, you know, and to think that Crabtree's been penalized for his touchdown celebration, I think 2 or 3 times this season already, which is not a throat slash. We talked about what it is. It's from a TV show called Eastbound and Down. Yet no flag was thrown on that play. I don't get it. I mean, I don't like to buy the whole Raider conspiracy theories, but you really got to wonder sometimes. I mean, that was a real head scratcher. I wore my Carl Joseph jersey, Color Rush jersey, last week on the Christmas Eve game. Now, the week that I ordered the jersey was the same week that he got injured. I ordered it on a Friday. He got injured on a Saturday or Sunday. I could have those days wrong. I don't know. We played so many national games this year. And then I wore it on the Eve game, the Christmas Eve game. Derek Carr gets injured. I'm wearing the jersey of an injured player. Our leader gets injured. I wore it again this Sunday thinking there's no such thing as a cursed jersey. There's no such thing. McGloin gets injured. Do I need to retire my Carl Joseph jersey?
I think you need to retire. Cursed? I think you need to retire your Carl Joseph jersey, bro. I think that was that's one of them things where, yeah, it's a bad deal for you, man. You're gonna have to burn
it. and the blog knows, the people on pillagingjustforfun.com, the comment section, they know, the community knows that I went through some real hurdles to get that jersey. And I think the red flag started when I bought it and Carl Joseph got hurt. So, exactly. KJ, bro, I'm sorry, but I got to retire your jersey.
Got to let you go, baby. Got to set you afire. Got to set you on fire,
such a nice
baby.
Jersey. Matches my shoes real nice, too. Okay, so I guess the biggest storyline in this game is McGloin versus Cook. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the biggest story out of this game, but let's talk about it regardless. McGloin versus Cook. What do we have at the backup quarterback position? Who do you want to go out there in Houston? Let's say McGloin wasn't injured, which he is, and I think that's going to hold him out. But let's say you have both of those guys healthy. Who do you start in Houston next week? Oh, man,
Connor Cook, without a doubt. I mean, Connor Cook stepped in and looked like a quarterback. And you know what? The offense looked like an offense, too, with Connor Cook on the field. I think it would be a big mistake if you started McGloin again, ever, in the rest of whatever little bit of a career he got left.
And we were chopping it up earlier, and you had some thoughts about Cook not getting snaps. Can you elaborate on that right now? Like preparing him through the year, what could have been done differently to get Cook ready for a situation like this?
Well, first of all, Cook should have been getting the little leftover snaps that McGloin was getting with the first team reps. You drafted this guy in the 4th round, and you hit him, you benched him, you basically buried him on the depth chart. You had McGloin, and now that I saw how McGloin looked yesterday and how Cook looked, this was a real big mistake by the team. Cook should have been the backup quarterback. You should have gave Cook every opportunity to be the backup quarterback. There's no way McGloin should even be starting over this kid. I mean, this kid came in a blind. He doesn't have a game plan. He doesn't have a play in the playbook that's designed for him or nothing. And he made the offense look like an NFL offense as opposed to McGloin making us look like the 3-13 team that we was 2 years ago.
Yeah, amen. There's a lot of people that have been on the pro McGloin train for a long time. And my whole stance on it was, you had a guy that you thought was a gem when he was surrounded by trash. And now you have a guy that's surrounded by gems who you realize is actually trash. McGloin is a backup quarterback for a reason. I never believed he would be a starting quarterback anywhere else. I don't think he ever will be unless that was a team like Cleveland or hell, even San Francisco at this point.
I don't even think Cleveland will give him an opportunity at this point. I mean, what could you do for?
No, I'm being real generous when I say that.
Too generous.
And now you got a guy like Connor Cook who at least has youth on his side, stepped up and looked a lot more poised. Even after that first play, goes right back to the huddle. I mentioned to myself, he looked real confident. He looked real calm in there. I mean, he was not perfect by all means. He was not perfect, but I definitely agree with you here. I know that's bad radio, but I agree with you. I think Cook goes on and starts in Houston. I think he has to. And, McGloin just looked like he was frantic the whole game. He just looked paranoid the whole time. So we're going to get into the trash can MVP conversation. You and I already spoke about this, and we agree on the MVP player. Who's your MVP in this
my
game?
My MVP would have to be, I will say, Bruce Irvin. I would say Bruce Irvin with another strip sack.
Okay. Yeah. And then, other than that, we were saying Connor Cook. So
yeah.
I like those two picks.
Yeah. Well, I kind of gave them both.
But I like those two picks.
I
think Bruce Irvin was one of the only guys that showed up on Sunday that looked like he's been there all year on that defense. So I definitely say Bruce Irvin. And, Connor Cook, maybe just an honorable mention because he didn't play too long, but for coming in there and at least giving us some kind of glimmer of hope at the end. Shout out to Cook. It was good to see you on the field. Unfortunate circumstances, but you're a Raider.
You know what? I'm looking forward to seeing Connor Cook play after a week of practice with the ones and a playbook designed to fit his strengths. I just want to see what look, I'm not expecting much from this kid, but I just want to see what he's got going forward. If he can just be resilient, big dude, 6'4", 260, 250, the kid got a rocket arm, he's not a solid practice player. Hit the rap on him. He hasn't been a solid practice player, but he's a gamer. He turns it on during the game. Look, you got Cooper, you got Crabtree, same players that McGloin had. Let's see what he does. And you know what? I'm going to tell you what. Looking at that game, he did a lot more with those players than McGloin did. Even the overthrows or just trying to hit the right player at the right time. At least he was able to make the decisions. The throws were off, but the decision was correct. So I just want to see what this dude does with his playing time. I'm looking forward to it.
So, hold on. Give me a second here while I get this in gear. It's time to back up this garbage truck. So, who's your trash can player?
My trash can player is Matt McGloin. You stink, bro. I don't know why they gave you a second round tender. They should have gave you a second round kick out the door is what they should have did, because a second round tender does not fit you at all, bro. You had an opportunity of the lifetime. You could have even just to look like a decent quarterback, you would have got a starting job, opportunity somewhere. You couldn't even do that. You showed up and you showed out badly. I mean, you showed out like a kid that didn't get a candy cane on Christmas. You stink, bro. Trash.
Garbage. Enough said. Let's take a break, and we'll let you guys back on the other side. We'll talk about this playoff picture and what happens now as Oakland nears the offseason. You're listening to the Pillaging Podcast, companion podcast to PillagingJustForFun.com, the only Raider fan site made by Raider fans for Raider fans, featuring fan-submitted articles and the most lively Raider Nation conversation on the internet. Follow us on Twitter @PillageJustForFun. That's @PillageJust4Fun. Also, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio.
Yo, what's going on, Raider Nation, Pillaging folks? This is your boy JFB. What a disaster that was. Just went to show how important quarterback play is in the NFL. We beat Denver by 10 in Oakland. We lost by 18 in Denver. That's a 28-point swing. There's some variables also involved in there, but that's a pretty alarming difference in point scores. And quite frankly, both those games seemed like they were a larger deficit than the final score ultimately showed. It felt like we beat Denver by more than 10. Felt like we lost by more than 18 yesterday. Both those games, the outcome seemed pretty much in the bag almost by the end of the first quarter. So quarterback play is so important, man. You can have a dominant O-line. You can have Coop and Crabs out on the outside, a top 5 defensive player in Khalil Mack, 7 Pro Bowlers, great punters, all this other cool ancillary stuff. You got a Matt McGloin at quarterback to complement all that, you're a 5-win team. I mean, that's just what it is. If you ain't got a quarterback, you're not going to make it happen in the NFL. I mean, you can catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. You see some of these teams catch all these breaks. They make these epic runs for 1 year, and something can happen. But look at the Baltimore Ravens as a great example. That 2000 defense was the best defense I've certainly ever seen in my lifetime, arguably one of the best defenses ever, right? They steamrolled through the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl by like 4 touchdowns. Come back, they won exactly 1 playoff game. The next 8 years. Oftentimes not even making the playoffs. So it's because they had no quarterback. You got no quarterback, you got no chance in this league. Now, hopefully Connor Breitbart can go in there this weekend, Saturday, make some plays. I guess the good thing is, ain't nobody got no film on him, so they don't know any tendencies. So hopefully he can go in, make a couple plays, get a win, cross our fingers, hope for more lightning in a bottle and a miraculous recovery for Derek Carr, or hopefully an injury to a quarterback that we're playing maybe in the second round, and we could get Derek Carr before the season's end and maybe make a Super Bowl run. It's our only chance. Let's go Raiders.
Kenny, Happy New Year to you, Kane, 3-3 Raider. Hey, real quick, I was at the game yesterday. Oh my goodness. What a disaster. I think when it's all said and done, the thing that stood out to me the most is just not having Carr in his leadership. You can't X's and O's that. Carr made up for a lot of our mistakes on defense. He really was. You can also say he's the key to the running game. I mean, Denver stacked 9 in the box, 8 in the box, and we just didn't have an answer. Really disappointed in the defense. I thought we could easily handle Denver's putrid offense, but oh my goodness, what a crap show. Ken Norton Jr., I don't know. I mean, he could stay 1 more year or he could get fired. I don't think much Raider Nation would be against that. But anyways, still got a game in Houston. Love the rookie. Love Connor Cook. He came in there with a little bit of moxie. I think we got to just roll with him and hopefully get that running game cranked up, because that's the only way we're going to win on Saturday is run the ball and stop the run. That gives us a chance. Go Raiders. Can't wait for the podcast. Happy New Year's, my brother.
Hey, Pillagers. It's Plunk for Hall of Fame. So, I am brokenhearted over Carr. I can't believe this happened to us. But we had a great season. We are going to play a playoff game, and yeah, they got to play the game. So go Connor Cook. I'm really disappointed in McGloin, and I was a full-on McGloinoid. Well. So go Raiders, beat Houston.
All right, y'all, we're back. And we're talking about Oakland versus Houston coming up here. It's actually a playoff game. I know hopes aren't too high, but look around. Your Raiders are in the playoffs. Should be in the playoffs much more going forward here in the near future and for some time after. So what should we expect? Do we have hope next week, Kane? I mean, should Raider fans be hopeful or, go through the motions? What's your gut feeling here? And what's your
gut feeling is to go into this with no expectations, and that way you don't get your feelings hurt. But to be honest with you, Connor Cook is not a bad quarterback. He hasn't played an NFL game in a playoff game especially, so you can't really expect too much on this guy. The defense did not show up in Denver. This team has not played 2 bad games in a row. So let's see if the defense shows up this week, and let's see, the offensive line got manhandled by the defensive line of the Denver Broncos, which I was really shocked by. So let's see if the offensive line shows up this week and gives Connor Cook a hand. Let's see if we can get the running game going this week. That's about all you can expect, man. No big expectations. Let's just see the team come out with some resilience. Fight. Let's just see you fight. Don't let Houston just walk away with a victory, because your leader is hurt. Let's show some resilience this week.
I think what you hit on is perfect. Those are my two keys to the game. Number one is the defense. Like you said, we haven't played 2 bad games in a row this year, or not for some time at the very least. And you're going up against a squad that's pretty mediocre on offense. The one thing they have is a good rushing game. And I think that's probably the strong point of our defense is the rush defense. So if they can show back up this week, there's a chance that we could sort of even the playing field for our offense. Last time we played them, we did give up yards and chunks. Do remember, though, we played that game in Mexico City. And do remember when we played that game, DJ Hayden was your starting cornerback. And DJ Hayden was the cause of a lot of those chunks of yardage. So that's a little bit different. So there's some hope there, Raider fans, stick in. But if Connor Cook doesn't get the protection he needs and he doesn't pick up on the playbook that they give him next week, I can see Connor Cook turning the ball over very often next Saturday. And that's probably my biggest concern. If we can't protect the ball on Saturday and we only rush it 16 times again, and the defense lets us get down early, then that's all she wrote. This is not a team that's going to come back from being behind in the fourth quarter. Derek Carr's not walking through that door. He's not playing in a wheelchair. That's not going to happen, Raider fans. So the defense has to show out, and they need to show and improve. And, that offensive line needs to come to play, man. I know their guy is out, but they need to show their guy what kind of respect they have for him by not giving up when he's not in there. I think Derek would do the same thing, and that's what Derek would want. I think Derek Carr's rooting pretty hard for Connor Cook at this point. I would if I was him. So what happens now? You have coaches and players that potentially are going to take a lot of blame in this offseason. I mean, you can't take blame for an injury, but that's not to say that we rolled out a perfect team this year. We had a lot more potential than what we aspired to. And if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, is this team a 12-4 season? I said no. My prediction was actually 11-5, and that was optimistic. So no. And without Derek Carr on the squad, you can see it wasn't. So, I mentioned earlier that we won 7 comebacks this year. That tells you that the offense or the team as a whole was in a position to lose football games 7 times this year until Derek Carr took the field and saved their butts 7 times. So you pointed out, subtract those 7 games, and what you have at the end of the season is a 5-11 record, and that's who you are without Derek Carr. You said Derek Carr covered up a lot of the flaws on this team. Can you expand on that? Like, tell us about that. I don't want to steal all your thunder, so expand on that.
No, I mean, basically that's what we saw. We saw Derek Carr save us time after time. 7 fourth quarter comebacks, as you just mentioned. You take away those, we're a 5-11 team. That's what we are. That's who we are. We are Derek Carr. Without Derek Carr, we are that 3-13 team from 2 years ago. That's who we are. That's what and you know what? I may be saying this out of a little bit of anger and bitterness for how the team played yesterday, but that's what y'all showed me. You got teams that around this league, namely Houston, that's playing without a quarterback that's in the playoffs, that you scared to see this weekend. And they don't have a quarterback that's decent. They haven't had a decent quarterback since Matt Flynn was Matt Flynn. This team has still been making the playoffs. They've been winning a division. Their defense is the number 1 defense. Their defense has stepped up in the place of a quarterback. And that's one team that the Raiders can look at going into this game this week against that team and say that their defense has carried them. Can your defense of the Oakland Raiders, can you carry the offense for one game? Because you did not show us that last week. So that's where I'm at, man. I'm bitter and I'm angry because this team, they didn't even show up.
So subtract Derek Carr, you got a 5-11 team, very similar to the squad you mentioned that went 3-13. I mean, overall, that's what it looks like. That's what I saw this Sunday. So that being said, somebody's got to take the blame for that, right? Who gets fired? Who do we keep? Who do we replace? Who do we upgrade? What happens? Is K&J safe on this staff? I think
Absolutely.
he's probably the coach that's got the most heat. You think so? You think K&J comes back next year? Why do you think he returns?
Listen, it takes a lot to learn a system. And you start putting players in place to fit that system, and then all of a sudden now you want to change the coordinator. Now you got to change the players and you to fit the system of the coach that you bring in. You have a system in place. The players are just getting adjusted to it. And as we mentioned, the top 10 defense last 4 weeks, so they're making progress. This was not something that was going to happen overnight. You did not expect this team to be 12-4 at this time of the year. You're making expectations way loftier than you had them back in August. So let this man coach this defense. What you need to do is look at the players on the defense. You say we got the pieces to fit and we should be a better defense. If you had the players, we would be a better defense. There's some players on this defense. There's some positions on this defense that can be upgraded. And let the GM and the coaching staff come together in the offseason, make the moves that they need to make. We're not going to fire anybody. No one needs to lose their job. We have exceeded expectations this year, Raider Nation. You didn't think you was going to be. I can ask 95% of the fans if you thought this team was going to be 12-4, and 95% of the fans would be telling a lie if they said they did. So leave the coaching staff alone. Let's look at the roster and let's make the proper adjustments in the offseason and come back next year and dominate. We learn from our mistakes. We are not ready to beat the division champs. We cannot beat Denver twice, and we cannot beat Kansas City once. Let's look at that first. And does that have to do with anything about the defense? Because I believe the defense showed up against Kansas City twice. The offense didn't show up. So, do you want to fire Bill Musgrave? You want to fire Jack Del Rio too? No, we're not changing over anyone. No one.
So that should come as a breath of fresh air to Raiders fans, because continuity is not something this team has had in over a decade, or you could even argue longer than that. I think that if Vic Fangio is available, there's rumors that he wants out of Chicago. I think that's the only move I would make over K&J. Other than that, I would agree with you. Let Norton, stay in his lane. But I think if Vic were to break free, that's a guy I might want to take a stab at. He does pretty well with linebackers. And that's really, in my opinion, where we need help is linebacker and secondary. So as far as players that need to be changed, we got Perry Riley Jr. in the middle. I'm not saying he can't be upgraded, but I also don't think he's the problem. I think he was somewhat of a solution to that problem, not a lock. But I really think that the Sean Smith, Reggie Nelson side of the field has been porous all season. I think that the secondary definitely needs work. I think Sean Smith can rebound, and I think he does better with better help over the top of him. Reggie Nelson was at the bottom of my free agency wish list last offseason. I really
talking
think
about a Pro
Nelson
Bowler
needs
here
to
now.
go. I know that, but I also think a lot of those are inflated stats that happen late in games. I don't like Reggie Nelson, and I've been on his case all season long. Listen to every single episode of the podcast, and I'm calling this guy out. So I know he closes games and whatnot, but I want him to dominate games. I want him to shut down the field. He's closing out games that are mostly comeback wins, primarily because of his fault. So, he wouldn't be in that position if he was playing better in the first through third quarter. So I really think Reggie Nelson's a problem, and I think the secondary needs help. Now with Carl Joseph hurt, we're really not getting any word on KJ or what's happening with him. It looks like he's on the bench until next season.
What's up with Nate Allen?
There was a root, and so is Nate Allen. So, I could see Allen possibly coming back, even though he almost didn't come back this year. He was let go and then brought back after acquisitions were made. So I think the secondary and primarily that safety position needs huge work. I don't know if that comes in the draft or in free agency. We're going to see how all of those things shake out.
Give me a name. Give me a name of a safety right now, free agency draft, that's going to replace Reggie Nelson. That's going to give us the veteran leadership that he provides in the locker room, the knowledge that he provides to the defensive backfield.
I wanted McLeod out of St. Louis last year, who ended up in Philadelphia, but he's not going to be a free agent this offseason, I don't think. So I can't give you a name right now until all the free agency stuff actually shakes out. I haven't looked at it yet ahead. So I couldn't tell you who I'd want. Do you have a guy on your mind that you would bring into this squad to upgrade that position? Or would you keep Reggie around? Would you bring him on another year?
We signed the guy, let him get into the system. I don't know about Sean Smith. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes free agency is a roulette. So you black or you red. Sometimes you're in the black, sometimes you're in the red. Sometimes you in between. But, Reggie Nelson is one of those guys that I think we should be able to hang on to for another year. Maybe we draft somebody in the second or third round, another safety that might replace him, in a year or two. But Sean Smith, we might want to look at replacing Sean Smith on the cornerback.
See, I disagree because I think Smith actually played better than Nelson. And if you're going to give Nelson another year to get in the system, I think you need to do the same thing with Smith. I feel like the corners aren't necessarily our biggest problem. It's the middle of the football field that's being patrolled by the safeties and that linebacker crew. I really think
then that would be your strong safety. That would be your strong safety that has something to do with the middle of the field. So that would be on Carl Joseph or Nate Allen, or Keith McGill, and he looked horrendous yesterday when he came in. But by the way, but yeah, you're also going to look at Malcolm Smith guarding tight ends. That's another player that's targeted to be replaced on this defense. I think he's held up for the time being, but as you take the next step to become that elite team, he's one of those players that can be replaced. You can draft Perry Riley Jr.'s replacement this year. I wouldn't be mad if we took a linebacker in the first round. You can look around on the defensive line. You can upgrade McGee. You can upgrade Autry. You can upgrade Jelly. You can upgrade a few players on this defense. Right now, like I said, Derek Carr has been hiding a lot of this stuff. So we haven't really took a deep look into it. But when you take a deep look into it, it's a lot of people that could be replaced on this defense. And David Amerson is not, he ain't too far from that list either. So I didn't basically mention everybody on the defense but Carl Joseph. And
I think that if you upgrade that defensive line, especially that interior line, the outside corners are going to start to look a whole lot better. The pass rush was late so many times this season, and I think if you had push up the middle, it's probably a different picture. I do expect this coaching staff to continue to collect the linebackers. I'm shocked that we haven't hit on one yet. With the exception of Khalil Mack, who obviously is now a defensive end. If and when Aldon Smith returns to this lineup, I don't even know what to tell you about that, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But I think definitely improve this interior defensive line. Not going to be shocked to see us draft more linebackers, and the safety position needs depth. Another position lacking depth on this team is tackle. We struggled on the right side this year almost all season long, really just interchanging two guys. Alexander, not worth mentioning. The guy's a penalty machine. So I think that tackle on the offensive line is also a position that needs to get looked at. And I think a lot of people, this might shock some people.
Left tackle.
Yeah, left tackle, sorry. I think a position that's being talked about that's surprising some people, but it shouldn't, is wide receiver. I think that wide receiver is definitely a need on this team too. There's too many dropped balls, and we need more competition in that group. And
you know
Seth
who I
Roberts,
like coming out?
What?
R.J. Shelton from Michigan State University. I think he can replace Seth Roberts. I'm not saying let's replace Cooper and Crabtree, but we need somebody else out there with some sure hands, and also that can make some plays in the slot. Seth Roberts is good, and I've been putting, Seth Roberts in the slot. I've been giving him his dope, I've been giving him his props, but he can be replaced too. And I think R.J. Shelton, do your homework. Look at R.J. Shelton. R.J. Shelton is another Tyreek Hill, is another Tavon Austin.
And what round do you take him in?
He'll be there at what we're going to be, number 60. That'll be what, number 66? We're going to have, the 23rd, 22nd pick in the draft. He'll be there at 44. Yeah.
Take him right there. I think that when you have a quarterback like Derek Carr, you got a guy that can make all the throws. Therefore, you need all the wide receivers. We can't really go 4 wide right now and scare anybody. Seth Roberts and Andre Holmes just ain't doing it for me. I think that Seth is a threat, but consistency has been his problem. Move him over into the 4th and get a guy to replace him, like you're saying. And I think that 4 wide receiver group gets really scary at that point. Get motion your tight end out, get a Walford in there too, go 5 wide. You have those big spreads sometimes. You've seen Carr be able to make all the throws and work entirely out of the shotgun. So going forward next year, the playbook is going to be wide open. We need personnel that can take advantage of that. Derek Carr can make all the throws, but if you don't have receivers that can make all the catches, then you're just kind of, running in place. So that's our early draft preview right there. We'll get into obviously more and more of that in detail as the season rolls forward. And then I think the other player, a couple players have question marks around him, or not so much question marks, but they're going to have contract talks going forward. Khalil Mack, Derek Carr, Latavius Murray come to mind. Derek Carr's injury, does it help him or does it hurt him? What does it do to his contract talks? What do you think?
It's going to boost his contract talks, especially with the way the team is playing without him on the field. I don't think it hurts his contract talks at all. I think it actually shows a team that without Derek Carr, so goes Derek Carr, so goes the Raiders, basically.
Yeah, so maybe it helps him in the long run because now we see just how valuable he is if you didn't already know before. This just sort of underlines that, if you will. Khalil Mack, he's definitely going to get his. I think he helped himself a lot this season. Some question marks around him early on, but what we know about him now is he's a slow starter, but once he picks it up, he explodes on the field. I think if an interior defensive line push is there, he gets started a lot earlier, but we also even saw some more moves out of him this year, working the outside, and then using that cut to the inside. We saw that a lot in the second half of this year, a lot more so than we did last year. So Khalil Mack is finna to get paid too. He did nothing but help himself this season. The last guy on the list, though, is Latavius Murray. Do you bring back Murray? Do you draft a new guy? Do you pick up a free agent? There's a lot of talk about running backs being interchangeable. Do you promote Rashard or Washington? What do we do with Latavius Murray?
I think we're going to bring Latavius Murray back. I don't think he's going to command a lot of money on the open market. I think you can lock him down for 4 years, $6 million a year. $24 million contract should lock Latavius Murray down. I don't see him having much of a demand in free agency. He's a part of a 3-back core, and that's just how we run it. And can he be the lead back and can he give you 25, 30 carries a week? I don't know. So with that being said, yeah, I think we bring back Latavius Murray at a cheap price, at a benefit us. $6 million a year is not a lot for a running back in the NFL.
I agree with you. I think we get him at a bargain. If it's not broke, don't fix it. He's not the flashy back, but he's strong, he's steady, and he's a good complement to the rest of our stable. So unless something out there is really jumping out at you and screaming at you and it's there for our value, I say bring back Murray, keep the core together. I'm not on this guy's back as much as a lot of people are. I saw a lot of improvement by him this year. He was making moves before hitting the line. He was more of just a push it forward back. He showed that he has some agility, and he upped his hands game this year too. He's catching a lot more balls out of the backfield. So I like Murray. I think he continues to progress next year, and I'd like to see him come back. That's pretty much all I got. Is there anything else you want to add before we get out of here, brother?
That's my motto this week. Show up, Raiders.
And I want to say too to everybody out there, Raider Nation, continue to show up. Don't lose faith in this team. You never know what's going to happen Saturday. Anything can happen, and we got to stay behind our team. We got at least one more week of football left, and enjoy being in the playoffs. Enjoy knowing that when your team's on the field, no other team is on the field this Saturday. It's going to be all eyes on us. We earned this. It's not what we expected to be at the beginning of the season, and it's not where we expected to be in the middle of the season, considering the fact our starting quarterback's out. But given all of that, it is where we are, and be proud of that, because we're going to be right back here next year in a whole lot better position. So have faith, Raider Nation. This is a team we can beat, and it's just not our style to get down on our team. So buck up, champs. Like I said last week, put a smile on your face. A happy New Year, everybody. And that's it for this week's show. Again, tune in every Tuesday on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. You can drop us a line at 408-909-PJFF. That's 408-909-7533. Also follow us on Twitter at Pillage Just for Fun. That's at Pillage Just the number 4 Fun. I'm Kenny Stapler, joined every week by my co-host
Raider Kane.
And we out here. Peace. Go Raiders.
Raiders.